This is Charlie Parsons for Boxing Social in association with William Hill and Empire Fight Store. I have to say, a real pleasure. I DM'd you what was last night for you, which was only sort of maybe
4
lunch
a.m.
for me. Yeah. Um, it feels a bit weird doing a Zoom all the way across the world. Don't do many Zooms to Australia. Do a few to
Thank
America.
you.
Stevie Spark, how are you, my friend?
Yeah, really good, mate. It's a ripper morning here, and yeah, just getting up for the day. Thanks for having
It's
me
so
on.
nice to it's so nice to hear the good day. I've not heard that since we were back in Guadalajara and I was speaking to you back then.
Yeah, it's beautiful here. It's winter here, but the mornings and days been nice, so it's good.
Let's jump straight into it. I was with you throughout the week in Guadalajara for Canelo-Ryder. Um, it was quite a fun week. Obviously, we'll go a little bit into the loss that probably wasn't very fair. But just on the whole week and the occasion and everything about it, that stadium now looking back and reflecting, what do you think?
Yeah, it's a hell of an experience, and something that I get to say that I've done for the rest of my life, and not many people can say they fought in front of 50, 60,000 people on a Canelo Alvarez undercard. And as many said, it was probably one of the fights of the night. It was entertaining. It had everything. And yeah, look, I take a lot from those sorts of things because as a fighter, you can't buy experience. Like you have to go through it to gain it. And, dealing with the crowd and fighting in another country, dealing with different time zones. And there's so many things you have to adjust to when you're a part of something like that. And I don't think people understand that when you have to go into someone else's backyard, what's actually involved and how much harder it really is to be able to perform at 100%. So, I take a lot away from it. I'll be an even better fighter from that experience, just learning when to conserve energy in the fight week and just, you just grow as a person going through that. But on the decision, it was fucking bullshit. So
How
I'm
hard has
still,
that been to deal with? Because I mean, I know that sort of time is always a healer, and I was just speaking to someone in another interview now. We saw at the weekend the scorecards between Cambosis and Haney,
yeah.
Maxi Hughes, even people were debating. It's always going to be a sickener when you're the one that's on the wrong side of it.
Yeah, and you know what the biggest part of it is the money side. That's probably the worst part. A lot of these fighters, and including myself, a win there sets you up for X amount on your next fight. And, Maxi Hughes, myself, you potentially beat someone like Cambosis or, and you can be fighting for $1 million your next fight, couple of million, whatever it may be. And now he's going to be back to, that fringe level again. And also not only that, not just the money side, but it's like they've taken his crowning moment away from him. And me too, like I had to climb off the canvas and rally really hard in those last 4 rounds. And, to see one judge gave him 6 rounds still, I'm like, what the hell? I would have had to knock him down how many times and still win the fight. It just pisses me off because it's like a lot of these judges have their scores written even before the fight started. And not only that, the crookedness was the 2 judges
I was going to mention,
were,
yeah.
we'd spoken to Eddie and we'd spoken to Matchroom about, determining that because they dropped the title last minute. I didn't know that, but they dropped the title last minute. Then they were swapping out 2 of the judges to the local judges, and we were like, no, this isn't happening. Like, we're not fighting unless it's, neutral judges. We're not fighting a Mexican with Mexican judges involved. And they even announced the correct judges, but then the wrong ones were in the seats. And then after the fight, they've announced the correct ones. So I don't know what
You
point.
know that when they announced, so when they announced the judges,
No,
wow.
I rewatched the video and they've announced, Ruben Cruz, blah blah,
Is
and
there
I
nothing
saw the
you
other.
can do there?
Hey,
Nothing you can do there.
we've put in some stuff to a lawyer and that about it, and yeah, look, it's what boxing is like. It's a hard sport to get anywhere on those sorts of things. Matchroom wrote in a letter to the commission, their local, and to ask it be turned to a no contest, and so do we and that. But I mean, nothing gets done with these sorts of things, which is sad for fighters. There's like, there's no union, there's no one to stand up for the fighters on those sorts of things. So you just got to have a crack, and unless you're a name or you're a world champion, it's very hard to get things like that overturned. And even then, it's fucking near
Yeah,
impossible.
rarity. Yeah.
But you know what? It was a little bit difficult for a bit. I was a bit salty on it, and but anyway, you can sit around and feel sorry for yourself. You can get on with it, move on, and it's only made the fire stronger and in my belly better. So
Where are you now, my friend, in terms of moving forward? I know that you had some injuries in your hand and sort of you're waiting on healing there, but sort of ready to get back to the ring sort of whenever. I know you're actually you announced today about moving up to 147.
yeah,
Um just ready to get back out there now.
yeah, for sure. I'm been seeing everything going on, and I'm like, I just want to get back in there. I'm itching now. I'm like, and the reason we made the move up to welterweight, like I'm sitting around about 75, 76 kilo now, and I'm like, oh, the cut just to 63 and a half is just getting too hard and too dangerous. I just think how much of that's going to be detrimental and how much of that's beneficial, really. Like I'm already considered a pretty big super lightweight, to be honest, and I spar super welterweights pretty much my whole camp. So I have no worries in stepping up that weight. I've got the power to go up as well. And I just really think, those last 4 weeks of training camp are generally the most important. Like they're the most crucial weeks of your training camp. And if you're there cutting too much weight and you're fatigued, you're sleeping too much, whatever it may be, just because you're trying to get to a certain weight class, I don't think that's beneficial. And I think it's time to make that move. My first pro fight I ever had, I was at 63 and a half. So that's 10 years ago nearly. And I just think now I've grown and I'm a young man and I really need to move up that weight class now. I think it's going to help me in a big way. And, moving forward, yeah, I want to get back in the ring October. I broke my hand in the last fight in Mexico there, I think in about the fifth round. I got 2 fractures in my left hand. I spoke to a surgeon when we got back and they reckon we won't need surgery or anything like that. So, yeah, we just move on and I'm just been slated at the heel. I'm back hitting the pads in the bag and just not using it properly in sparring yet. Don't want to risk it and hurt it too quickly. So yeah, October to be good. We did get offered a fight with Matchroom for September 9th, but it was just a little bit too quick for my hands. So a little bit longer and I should be fine.
Let's talk about. I remember when we were in Guadalajara, we sort of divulged a little bit on Aussie boxing as a whole. Um, One thing that sort of you move up to 147, and there aren't really any domestic fights for you. You're probably going to have to go over to America or come over to the
Yeah.
UK or something. But that's something that you've started to relish now.
Yeah, I mean that's just how it is. I mean that's where the big fights are. That's where the champions are and the names. There's no one here in Australia for me to really fight at welterweight. I don't really know anyone. There was only really one fight for me in Australia before, and that was Liam Parra at super lightweight. So I mean, from that we just move forward. I'm sure Matchroom or whoever might have some big fights for me at welterweight, which I'm, keen to be a part of. It's another stacked division really as well. So yeah, we're keen to be a part of it.
Just finally from me, then we saw that Matchroom DAZN have sort of linked up with Tasman fighters. We know that Jay Opetaia's gone on a co-promotional deal with Matchroom, and potentially that Riakporhe fight could see yourself out in Australia. I know there was that card sometime towards the back end of last year, and it probably
Oh,
I've
hang on.
there was a card back end of last year, and they probably would have liked to do more, but I know that they sort of are eyeing the return of having a few home shows. In terms for you, I know big fights, as we mentioned, most likely abroad, but if the opportunity came to get yourself out on one of the Matchroom shows back home, I say back home, it could still be miles from you, but within the same country, that would be nice as well.
Oh, mate, I'd jump at that opportunity. I'd love to fight here, especially in Queensland. Like I know Jai, and he's a hell of a fighter. If I could get on that undercard or whatever, it'd be awesome if they're doing it back home. I have massive support back in Australia, and everyone keeps asking me, "When are you fighting back home? When are you fighting back home?" And I think everyone's itching to see me fight back here. And whether it be with an international opponent or whoever they can find me, would be absolutely amazing. So if we can get that over the line, it'd be cool. But either way, mate, I like being on the road as well. I like traveling with the team, and I like flying the Australian flag high overseas too. It's it was pretty cool to be over in Mexico, and then it was pretty cool to be in Cleveland, Ohio, and beat Montana Love. So it's there's something different about also going overseas and winning. And then I'd love to win a world title overseas and bring it back to Australia. That'd be pretty cool. So yeah, it's exciting. And the Australian boxing fans, like it's starting to grow here more and more. It's getting bigger, and it's what we want to see. We need the Australian boxing scene to become like the football scene here, where they get behind it just as much, and and it's starting to get that way. We have a lot of boxing shows happen here. Like there's a boxing show nearly every week, every second week here. So it's getting bigger and bigger, and it's good.
And anyone can get it, man. I suppose just finally, then I mentioned that Opetaia-Riakporhe fight. How does that one go?
Do you know what? To tell the honest truth, I haven't even watched him. So I'm just gonna say Jai. I
I
don't really
love
watch
the
much of it.
honesty. I no, I much prefer that than you telling me.
I've never watched that. What's his name? Rio.
Richard Riakporhe.
Yeah, never seen him fight. You know what? I don't watch a lot of the heavier guys, like only if it's an Australian or something like that. But I actually don't watch a lot of boxing, to tell the honest truth. Like some people would think, but if there's a big fight on or something, like Lomachenko or George Kambosos, I might watch it. But I'm not really like a massive boxing watcher. Yeah, I don't really watch it, to be honest, too much.
Fair enough.
Anyway,
There's some fighters that don't, and there's some fighters that do. I suppose on that, did you grow up a boxing fan, or were you just really good at it?
I was actually really shit at it. I started when I was about 12 at like like I grew up in a little country town called Crow's Nest. And it's about an hour from Toowoomba, where I live now. And yeah, just went out to the local RSL with a mate and trained with a trainer there, and then went to Toowoomba and went to a local PCYC. But at the start, yeah, I was pretty average. Hey, I used to get beat up a fair bit. And I was always the runt of my class. So like I was always the littlest guy. And so yeah, it wasn't really that good, but I just sort of stuck with it. I actually did a bit of MMA for a bit too. I went to Thailand, did Muay Thai when I was like 15 or 16 for a bit, and
Oh.
did a bit of BJJ. And I was in love with George St. Pierre. Loved him. I was like, I'm gonna be an MMA fighter. I used to kick the bag around the house and stuff. I thought I was GSP. And then yeah, I just sort of started winning more and more amateur fights, and then I won the Aussie title, and then we went to England on a tour in 2012, I think it was. We did like an amateur tour through Wales and Hull, and yeah, so I was like, oh well, I'll just stick with this boxing thing. I like this, and just sort of, I guess, the better I got at it, the more the dreams sort of come to me, I guess. And then yeah, when I was about 16, 17, I was like, now this is what I want to do for a job. I want to be a world champion, and sort of there, the dream got bigger and bigger.
Well, Stevie, a great story. It's always good speaking to you, a man that always comes with good energy, and I'm sure the UK public can get behind. Just a sort of final message from yourself to your fans, sponsors, whatever. Eagerly awaiting a fight date, maybe October time, and up at 147.
Yeah, just thanks to everyone for the continued support. I've got amazing sponsors back home here, and my support, since my last two fights has just gone massively across the world. So it's awesome to see how many people are really getting behind me and just sort of love my fighting style. I do have an entertaining fighting style. I put it on the line every single time, and I'll continue to do that even at 147. So thanks to everyone. And just a quick one: who's at welterweight in England? Who's Eddie got at welterweight? Do you know who he's got at welterweight?
Conor Benn.
Yeah.
Who else has he got? What, you've put me on the spot now. Catch at 140. Josh Taylor's coming up to 147.
I'd like that.
Um,
I'd like Josh Taylor.
Let me get back to you, and then the next time.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Me and Brendan, my manager and trainer, were talking about it yesterday, and I was like, I don't know who he's got at 147. I haven't actually looked into it too much. I've just been too focused on the 140s. But I know he's got Conor Benn, and I see. I met Conor in Guadalajara, actually, nice fellow, and that's so.
Yeah.
I mean, there's huge fights there over in England. Obviously with Matchroom. So, but and obviously Josh Taylor as well. That's a fight I'd love.
Well,
So
I'd love
see what
to
happens.
see you
I think he's
on
been going back and forth online with
Jack
Jack
Catterall.
Catterall.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know what's going to happen there.
Well, Stevie, thank you very much for your time, my friend. Always a pleasure. Like I say, we look forward to seeing you out next time. And yeah, thank you for speaking to us at Boxing Social.